They say the tree does not move, yet every year someone vanishes beneath its branches. And every year the elders warn, do not go near the tree at the edge of the forest. Still, someone always does. This is the story of the boy who climbed it and returned with a truth the village was never ready to face. Long before loud engines and glowing screens, there was a quiet village called Amanzi, resting between red earth paths and endless green forest. The people of Amanzi were farmers, hunters, and keepers of old wisdom. They lived by the rhythm of sunrise and moonlight, by the call of roosters and the songs of crickets. Children chased goats through dusty compounds, women pounded yam in wooden mortars, and elders sat beneath the nuku tree in the village square, sharing stories older than memory. But beyond the last farms, past the hunters' traps and the river bend where fishermen sang at dawn, stood a place no one entered willingly. A clearing where the wind refused to linger, a patch of earth where grass would not grow, and in the center of it all stood the forbidden tree. It was taller than any iroko, wider than 5 men with linked arms. Its bark was dark, almost black, with deep ridges that twisted like frozen rivers. No birds nested in its branches, no fruits hung from its limbs. Even fallen leaves from other trees seemed to avoid touching its roots. No one knew how old it was. No one knew who planted it. But everyone knew the rule: never go near it. Children in Amanzi grew up on the same warnings whispered at night when oil lamps flickered low. If you hear your name called from the forest after sunset, do not answer. If you see light dancing between the trees where no fire burns, run home. And if your feet ever carry you before a giant tree that casts no shadow, close your eyes and pray you still remember the way back. Because the elders said the tree was not just wood and leaves, it was watching. Now, in every village blessed with wisdom, there is always one child blessed with too many questions. In Amanzi, that child was Kamari. Kamari was 15 seasons old, lean as a young antelope and quick both in body and mind. While other children shivered at the mention of the forbidden tree, Kamari leaned closer to the stories. His friends ran from mystery. He chased it. "Why is it forbidden?" he would ask. "Because it is not for us," his mother would reply. "But what does it do?" His father would sigh. "Some doors are closed for a reason." That answer never satisfied him. To Kamari, the warning sounded less like danger and more like a challenge wrapped in fear. One evening, as the sun melted into orange and purple, Kamari sat beside Baba Nkem, the oldest man in Amanzi. The old man's back was bent like a question mark, and his beard was white as cassava flour. Children loved him for his stories, but that night, Kamari did not want a tale about trickster tortoises or dancing spirits. "Baba," he said quietly, "have you ever seen the forbidden tree?" The old man stopped chewing his kola nut. His cloudy eyes lifted slowly. "I saw it once," he said after a long silence, "when I was younger than your father is now." Kamari's heart thumped. What happened? Baba Nkem looked toward the darkening forest. "It is not a tree that grows from soil. It grows from choices." Kamari frowned. "I don't understand." "Long ago," Baba continued, "our ancestors were blessed with abundance. Yams grew large, rivers were full, and no child slept hungry. But blessings can make people forget gratitude. Greed entered their hearts like a slow poison. So the spirits punished them? Baba shook his head gently. The spirits warned them first, but humans are stubborn. When the warning was ignored, something was planted in the earth, something that would never let them forget. Kamari leaned closer. What happens if someone touches it? The old man's voice dropped to a whisper that barely disturbed the night air. They see the truth they have been hiding from themselves. Not long after that conversation, fear returned to Amanzi like a long-lost enemy. A hunter named Tade did not come home. Tade was strong, brave, and knew the forest like a brother. When his wife raised the alarm, men went searching with spears and dogs. They found his traps untouched. They found his footprints leading deeper than usual. And then they found the clearing. His spear lay on the ground. The earth around it was disturbed, carved with deep grooves like something heavy had been dragged across the soil. But Tade was gone. No blood, no struggle, just silence, and the shadow of the forbidden tree stretching across the clearing, even though the sun stood high above. No one said it aloud, but the truth hung in the air. The tree had taken another one. Panic spread. Children were forbidden from going beyond the farms. Hunters refused to walk alone. At night, doors were bolted earlier than ever before. But inside Kamari, something different was growing. Not fear, curiosity. What if he is still alive? Kamari wondered. What if the tree is not evil, just misunderstood? The thought took root and would not leave. Before dawn one morning, while the village still slept, Kamari tied roasted yam in a cloth, tucked his father's old knife into his belt, and slipped into the forest alone. Mist clung to the ground as he walked. The deeper he went, the quieter the world became. Birds stopped singing. Even insects seemed to hold their breath. Then he saw it, the clearing, and at its center, the forbidden tree. Up close, it was worse than the stories. The bark's ridges looked like faces frozen in silent screams. Thick roots rose from the earth like giant snakes, twisting and disappearing back into the ground. The air felt heavy, pressing against his chest. Kamari's legs trembled, but he did not run. Then he heard it. Kamari. His heart nearly stopped. The voice was soft, familiar. It sounded like his mother. He spun around. The clearing was empty. Kamari, help me. This time it sounded like Tade. The voice was coming from the tree. Every warning he had ever heard screamed in his mind, but something stronger pushed him forward. Show yourself, he shouted, his voice cracking. The bark shifted just a little, like skin over muscle. Without fully deciding to, Kamari reached out and placed his palm against the trunk. The world shattered. Suddenly he was no longer in the forest. He stood in a different Amanzi, larger, richer, filled with bright fabrics and shining ornaments. People argued in the village square. He saw two groups of elders shouting. Our harvest is ours, one side cried. Let the neighboring villages suffer their fate. We have more than enough, the other pleaded. Children are dying beyond our borders. Pride hardened faces. Compassion was drowned by fear of losing comfort. Then the ground shook. A radiant figure appeared, glowing like moonlight on water. You are given abundance to protect life, not to hoard power, the spirit said. But the people turned away. The spirit struck the ground with his staff, and from the earth burst a massive tree, its roots cracking the soil.
Until your heart remember generosity, the spirit declared, this tree will stand as a mirror to your souls. The vision shifted. Kamari saw people from different times approach the tree. A greedy trader saw mountains of gold within the bark and rushed forward, disappearing into it. A jealous woman saw her rival suffering and reached out with a smile. She too was swallowed. Then a small child approached, carrying a calabash of water to share with a stranger. The tree remained still, like ordinary wood. Kamari's chest tightened as the final vision came. He saw himself, older, wearing a chief's beads. People knelt before him. Messengers from another village begged for help during famine. In the vision, Kamari turned them away. I must protect my own first, he said coldly. He watched as that choice led to suffering, then anger, then war. Kamari fell to his knees. No, I would never! A voice echoed all around him. Every heart holds both seed and shadow. Which will you water? Tears streamed down his face. I choose to help. I choose to share. I choose to be better than the mistakes of the past. Light split the darkness. Kamari gasped and found himself back in the clearing, his palms still on the bark. But the tree felt different. Warm, almost alive. He stumbled back, breathing hard, then ran all the way home as the sun climbed into the sky. The village erupted in shock when they saw him. You went there? His mother cried, pulling him into her arms. Kamari told them everything, the visions, the ancestors, the spirit's warning. Some elders shook their heads. It is a trick, they said. The tree has confused the boy. But Baba Dinkem stepped forward, leaning on his staff. Truth often sounds like madness before it sounds like wisdom, he said. We have feared the tree for generations. Maybe it is time we fear the hardness in our own hearts instead.
Not long after, a drought struck a neighboring village. Their crops failed, their wells dried. They came to Amanzi, thin and desperate, asking for help. Fear whispered through Amanzi again. What if we do not have enough for ourselves? All eyes turned to the elders, then to Kamari. He stepped forward, voice shaking but strong. If we refuse, the tree still owns us. Silence held the village. Then one woman stepped out with a basket of yams. A man followed with maize. Another brought palm oil. Soon, a pile of food grew in the square. Amanzi shared, not from excess, but from choice. Seasons passed. Hunters noticed birds returning to the once silent clearing. Children dared each other to peek from a distance. One morning, Baba Nkem and Kamari walked to the edge of the forest together. Green leaves shimmered in the sunlight. Golden fruit hung from the branches of the forbidden tree. It no longer felt heavy. It felt free. No one heard whispers again. No one disappeared. And Kamari grew to be a leader, known not for power, but for open hands. The elders still told the story of the tree, but the ending changed. They no longer said, "Do not go near." They said, "Remember what it reflects." Because the greatest dangers are not always claws in the dark or spirits in the forest. Sometimes, the greatest danger is the moment we choose ourselves over humanity. And the greatest miracle is choosing differently.